everyone. Welcome to this month's interview. We are here with Mr. Peterson, who is the founder of Global Youth Justice. So, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your organization?
Sure. My name is Scott Peterson, and I now serve as a CEO and board president for Global Youth Justice. And back when I got out of college, about 20, what am I, 52, about 27 years ago, I helped open a homeless shelter in New York. There were 5 of us that did that, and I saw on TV at nighttime when the kids were all sleeping, there was a teen court in Texas back in 1993 on TV. And so I just got interested in it and started going to the library, researching it. And before I knew it, I'd gotten a group of people together in the community. And we started a youth court up. We started called Youth Courts of the Capital District. And that was in upstate New York. And they started growing where young people, you divert them for misdemeanors, real crimes. And they go before their peers, who a lot of times are prior offenders themselves. Young people volunteer to run these. They serve in different roles like judge, prosecutor, defender, clerk, bailiff, and jurors too. There's a couple different models, but it's basically young people helping out other young people, and the adults in the community are the ones who say it's okay to do that. They actually, prove it, set it up. But yeah, that's been going on about this is the 25th year since I started the federal initiative back at the Justice Department in '97. So we, so we started, we had about 50 youth courts back in '97, and now there's over 2,000 of them in 48 states, DC, we have about 30 tribal ones as well. And now they just expanded to 11 different countries. Germany and the Netherlands just even went further, and now about 20 programs each. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's like a whole youth-led movement, and it's public domain, and we don't own it or copyright it. Keep it out there in the public. So yeah, it's good.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do. I know the impact's been really big, and I know a lot of people appreciate what you've been doing. So, thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So would you mind elaborating a little more about what exactly your organization does? I know you touched on it a little more, but would you mind giving everyone some more detail about it?
Sure. Global Youth Justice, for 25 years, it's been going on since I started it with the Justice Department. So from 1997 to 2008, it was a taxpayer funded federal initiative. I was a federal employee. So the public all owned it, the public paid for it, and it wasn't that much. There were groups getting like $20 million, like Boys and Girls Club America, which is a really good group. But we put about $500,000 into it, about 5% of that. And we provided free training and technical assistance. So after 11 years with the government, we gradually started Global Youth Justice in 2009. Judge Arthur Burnett, Judge Burnett and I. And because we knew a lot of the local youth court people through the years, we're kind of the only person that hundreds of these youth courts, we kind of look at us as the ones who are behind them, pushing them, being their chief cheerleader, But what we did, we created a structure for Global Youth Justice, 2009 to 14. It was just a social venture where we just put money into it and kept it running. And what that meant is we put on trainings, we kept databases of all the local programs, we did the social media, we wrote documents, referral papers. We had a website where we posted everything, and we created a peer sharing network around the country where everybody, when they created things, we uploaded them on the website, and we'd have like 10 different examples of something. We'd put on trainings, and we'd have 25 teen court people come from different states, and they'd all train each other. So rather than relying on money, we relied more on volunteers, and our job was primarily that we took on. We have full-time jobs for a lot of the years. Judge Burnett's almost 90, so he was retired. But we took on the role of helping to establish new programs and establish them quality-wise. We also, when you have existing programs, so you have established programs, then you have enhanced existing programs, help make them better. Let's make the community service that they get sentenced to, let's make that more meaningful. Maybe they experience making a difference. Let's do stuff in groups, planting trees. So we found money and got Arbor Day vouchers. We've given hundreds of them away where they go online and have 100 trees delivered to their house. And then we help expand programs further. And so what that means is we really target some areas. This has been probably textbook, the closest I've seen it come to, a textbook example of a local grassroots movement, meaning the federal government's never funded local programs directly. It's the communities who said, we don't want to lock our kids up. We don't want to, have them go somewhere else. We all make mistakes. So we provide, like right now we have our first headquarters. We moved in here in 2019. We got our charity status. We actually took a while. We applied for our to be a charity where you can write grants. But right now we're at our first offices. It's called the Nonprofit Center, and there's 50 social justice nonprofits in a 9-floor building, and we're like 1 block from the Bay in Boston. And we're all glad to work here because we couldn't afford it otherwise, because rich people subsidize it, So it's one of these things. It's called TSNE Mission Works. So it's kind of nice. We're in nice offices where usually we'd all be like, 20 miles out, because we pay about 1/4 of it. And it's nice. And this allows us to do a lot more and help the sites, Like we have another 9/11 Day project, and we just mailed out 50 packets and we copied all the information. And there's a lot of tech. There's cheap training rooms here you can use, like a state-of-the-art conference center for like 150 people. But it's like 1/5 of what you would pay at a hotel. So people who are wanting to start these in their own communities, a lot of times they take the money out of their pocket to come to a training. So now it saves them money too. And we take that approach rather than trying to raise money, trying to raise and spend a lot of money. We just think that it takes more time trying to raise the money than you do with the people. So so we're like a regular old, now an international nonprofit. We don't have a lot of staff on purpose. We have a lot of part-time people, myself included. I work about half-time here, which is good, and our bookkeeper, and we have paid college interns. You always got to pay the college interns. They got bills too, So that works out well. We figured rather than hiring part-time people, we'd hire interns in college. And we even have a high school intern. Our first one, she's out in California, and she volunteers at a peer court. And she called up and she said, I'm really good at updating website, finding local websites for programs. So she went through she's going through 500 local websites on teen court around the country. And so I said, well, I can't have you do it for free. So then we pay her $400 a month. And she's updating all the local programs, and she does it about 5 hours a week, and she gets the email off it. Because, a lot of times these programs, they don't know who you are, or they don't even know you're out there. So if somebody starts a website, you can get their email and then put them on our newsletter, which we send out. They get it and they're like, wow, all these other people are doing all this stuff. Then they find the resources. So it's turned into a big family,
That's so interesting. And you
Yeah.
mentioned a lot of your mission is centered around youth who've maybe done some not necessarily serious criminal activity, but have done maybe a few things against the law, and that relies a lot on volunteers. So would you mind kind of elaborating what exactly the volunteers do, and if there's any youth people watching out there, kind of how they can get involved in that?
Sure, yeah. Young people that are, they're all the same young people. I often say the youth volunteers, half of them are, would be in trouble too. They just didn't get caught, So no, I don't look at people as a bad person or a good one. But when you're discussing a program, you've got the youth volunteers who are typically grades 7 through 12. And so when we do the trainings, we always say make sure and get students in public schools, private schools, even students who are in IEP programs. You're doing GED. You also have a specialized education plan, BOCES. A lot of people are in vocational programs. So if you're starting a program out there, we encourage people to take a wider look, and reach the youth typically out of the mainstream who wouldn't volunteer. And that's always important. And a lot of those young people too, especially after one of these teen courts have been around for a while, you'll have people who have come through the program and, been able to divert, not getting a record. Like if you're just say for the discussion purposes, we don't always say youth offender, but if you're talking about somebody who's been in trouble under 18, for misdemeanors, sometimes we encourage people to take those cases as well, second time. But young people, there's a few different models. Like if you start a youth judge model, you've got the youth as the judge, the prosecutor, the defender, the clerk bailiff, the foreperson, and then there'll be a jury of 5 to 9 students. Sometimes there's an adult judge model where it's an adult judge is there, or a lost lawyer, or just an adult in the community. And that way, and most of them too, it's not, the young people who've done something wrong, like a crime or misdemeanor, they admit what they did. And therefore it's not really a trial to be mean and, to go after them so much. It's more a sentencing hearing. It is a sentencing hearing. And so the prosecutor and the defender, if it's that kind of model, they present evidence to the jury, which a lot of times there is good and bad, and you just try to present it there. I think the important thing for the young people who are appearing before their peers is they know that their peers are the ones who are volunteering to staff these youth courts or teen courts, they call them, peer court, peer jury. And so they know their peers. The only reason these diversion programs operate is because they are volunteer driven with their peers. And therefore, a lot of these programs cost $20,000 or $50,000, not $1 million diversion program. So we end up with programs, we've got over 2,000 now, in the poorest rural communities, urban, tribal, which really lets them all participate in society as well because they're not left out. And most of the programs they don't have for the youth volunteers, there's not like a bar exam or a test for a high school student, It's like if we have 5 nights of training, you've got to come 2 or 3 hours. If you come and you're there, you can be a juror, you can be in a different role. So it's not like a competitive thing. It's come volunteer, help the peers out, and then the youth offenders, for discussion purposes, a lot of times they're as young as 7 years old. The one I used to run for 3 years, I had 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 11. Typical age was probably 14 to 17. And you can go above age 18. Most states now under age 18 is a minor. But a lot of our programs, at least when we do the trainings, we tell them if somebody's still in the GED program, or it's not hard to be 19 or 20 in high school if you got held back a year or something happened, you move, so you still can take them, as long as the judge is okay with it, and they should. And we even encourage people now because these programs have been around a while, and a lot of them you don't need to encourage it, they're glad to do it. But it's okay to take the same young person. They might have done something when they were 13-year-old, and then again when they were 17-year-old, you could be with yourself, one of your friends, one of your close girlfriends, or you hang out with, and you go to the grocery store or the drugstore, and somebody steals a tube of lipstick, and that's a misdemeanor for the person who sold it, and the person who's with them, they get charged with a misdemeanor, just not the one that took it. So you don't even have to be with somebody. Or if you're in a car with a bunch of people, 5 people, you got to be really careful, because if you get pulled over and somebody's got marijuana or some other kind of drugs, you all can get in trouble for it. And before you know it. So it's good to give people, we all need second chances, third chances even, sometime more, I think there's a saying, there was a nice man who helped us, him and his wife, Mr. Scrins, start the youth court up when I did, and he did all the kind of stuff, Boy Scouts and youth theater with his wife, with the kids. He always said, Scott, it's the message we're sending to young people. It's not you we don't like, it's your behavior. Accept responsibility what you did, do your hours, and then you're done. Don't carry that criminal tag on your back. You're done. You paid your debt back. But it is important to have the rule of law. We all should be held accountable, however, to the same things. We know it doesn't work out like that, especially for rich people, but most of the time. But and often that's in different kinds of cases. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's young people out there, if you want to get involved, just log on to our website, globalyouthjustice.org. And you'll see across the top, there's a bunch of buttons, and one of them have volunteer locally. And parents, if you're looking for your son or daughter or grandmothers, a lot of people, different parent guardians these days have young people. You can get on our website. About half of the local websites are listed there. So if your son or daughter, and I would say target and reach out to a lot of the different groups as well, to the programs, be inclusive. We're just having posters made for all of the programs around the country, 10 each, and we're putting 7 different little signs there, for everything from the LGBT to that, just how we all got to look out for each other, and it's important to let them know if you get on our website too. We have a lot of things that basically says hatred doesn't live here, so we just don't get involved with that. But so you can get onto our website, globalyouthjustice.org. And it's easy to email us too, just globalyouthjustice@globalyouthjustice.org. So just our name and then our name again, .org. And we're glad to talk with you. And there's also a lot of other programs the websites aren't posted, because a lot of times it'll be like the court will run it or the police will run it, and there's like a main website for those. So you'd give basically a main website and people wouldn't know where to go. So we're working on another way to do it, which we have email now too, which we can tell people we don't mind, and we have interns, so it's working out pretty good.
And I'll be sure to include your website and
Okay,
email on my website so people can be sure to get involved.
good, good.
And would you mind me asking, I know you said before you started this, you were a federal employee, and
Yeah.
since this blog is dedicated more towards politics and government, I was wondering if you could expand a little on kind of how you got involved with that and what path people should take if they're looking to be involved with government or just political jobs in general.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I meet a lot of young people through when I was younger too. I think it's like I was looking at some of the things you do. You're very active for your age, and I was like that too. And it's meeting people. It's not just meeting them, saying what you're going to do, offering to do stuff, and you really need to do a lot of that stuff earlier on, because it pays off earlier on, and you can make a bigger impact earlier on. And sometimes people will say, like I said to you earlier, what are you good at doing? Or and people will say it to me, and I'd say, I could do almost, like anything you almost need, I'll figure it out. And I think the important piece with that is being able to go to the library, at least back when I was younger, but now you can go on the internet. But it's learning how to make graphics, it's learning how to do newsletters, it's learning how to volunteer. I say, don't get trapped up for young people watching. Like there's things that, they try to get you into doing all this campusing, for certain candidates. A lot of times you're just helping them, and it's really not building your skills up. You're more helping a certain candidate. And it's nice to meet them, but most of the people doing that are going to go off at the end when it's all done and you'll be done with it. So you can limit yourself to helping some of that. But I'd say find 3 or 4 things you'd like to do, and get involved in those. And a lot of times things don't always turn out to where people, you're going to change the world, and we have to find our own ways to do it, and you have to be happy. And I always think finding several ways to do it has been the secret for. I get to do a lot of fortunate things, with the all over the world, get to go to all these countries and start up things. I started up last year for the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the 9/11 Day Flag of Honor across America memorials, if you get on our website. And that was about, instead of reading the 2,983 names, like doing a local memorial, I said, let me get 60 of our teen courts. So we took 60 of the teen courts and got them to volunteer, and they split up out of the, tragically, 2,983 people that died that day. But they each had a memorial for 50 people. So instead of just saying the name, they said about 10 different things about the woman, the man, and the child. Each of them got 50 different names. And so it ended up being something where all 60 communities kind of united together and said, let's do this, but let's do more in depth about each person. So we don't just, not that it's a bad thing only saying the names, but they put on these memorials, and we had an event that almost 10,000 people showed up in 60 different sites. And I think it was important for allowing a lot of those people, because people were family or friends or just being part of their community for that day as well. So being there and seeing you're making time to do something for something like that, because we did promise when all those people were killed from terrorists, the worst in history of the world, and most people that were ever killed in one day, we promised all the families that we'd never forget them. And so that was kind of something else. You can just start things up. I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in just the idea of something. I think people get lost at, but rather being able to have a network and to make things work that are special. But the fun part with that is I let all the 60 communities run with it. So I didn't need to be out front. I let them be out front, and they were our people, our teen court directors. A lot of them were working part-time, making $20,000-$25,000, and they're 35, 40, 50 years old, So that was special. Part of the reason I did it was that as well, to be honest about it, because I let the teen court people kind of feel a little bit more special and get to do something more special. And and I knew they'd come through for me too. And we'd all together, really make that day special. And we kept it all about the victims who died, we went more in depth about them, but we also made the events adult and youth co-led. So that, I've probably been able to do about 25, 30 things. Government, government is something, again, I mean, I was running the youth court up in New York, and the Assistant Attorney General for the United States Department of Justice showed up and heard about what I was doing with other people. But I was the executive director and the program coordinator and the secretary. But so yeah, it just kind of happened where they showed up. But you can apply for different kinds of government jobs, local, municipal. Federal's a little harder to get. State. Some people get them right out of school. I always try to do a few things, when you're, even in high school, college, part-time jobs, a few different kind of things if you can. And when you get out too, don't just try to be one thing or do one thing, and that's what's good about volunteering too. You can experience things and find things you like more too, And AmeriCorps members are good too. You can be an AmeriCorps member. They'll pay you a salary, you can go do somewhere, volunteer for a year. That's like direct service. That's an AmeriCorps member. This is where we get the 9/11 Day project through. And then you can be a VISTA member, which is part of AmeriCorps. But VISTA is administrative, not direct service. So you could really do like one of each and get experience at both. Because sometimes it's hard to get experience, That's why we've just started paid internships. You just have to, you got to just get out there and plug away. And don't go in debt from college. Don't go in debt if you're all listening.
Definitely very true.
Yeah.
Well, just to wrap up things a little bit, would you mind telling everyone why it's important to engage our youth? Why do you think there's significance in trying to get younger people involved when you have plenty of professionals who maybe have more experience?
Sure. Just last night, there's some different kinds of models of youth court or teen court, but there's also dispute mediation, conflict resolution are programs. There's restorative justice. So you have different kinds of people taking different approaches with different things. But some of them, like I support restorative justice practices within our youth court diversion programs, making the if there's a victim, that's a challenge with some of these things. Half the time, if it's theft case, the store manager is not going to come in 100 times. But some of these things you need to also look at what's in the best interest of youth overall. Like we're expanding our youth courts into Africa, different countries, Latin America, where the youth unemployment rate is like 50 to 60%, which young people, they often consider like 15 to 24. But the teen court, youth court, whichever one you call it, it's important to create a model that involves more youth, have like a 7 or 9 or 11 member jury, have a youth prosecutor, defender, clerk bailiff, foreperson, victim person, because that way you're involving a lot more young people on one case. And they're all just helping their peer who got in trouble anyway. They don't need a lawyer, they're getting off. But there's not a lot of opportunities for young people to engage in real public service, essential public service, to do something that actually is meaningful. And they get to experience it with their peers. And if you can volunteer from 9th grade or 10th grade, 11th, 12th, or even just a whole year, a lot of times you're a year, it gives a lot of those young people who don't have a lot in their life going on, they don't have a lot going on. They don't live in really homes, a lot of these people either, that are in other countries. So, I mean, I actually got in an argument with people from the United Nations because they wanted to do a little smaller circle type. It was more a European kind of restorative justice, too high tech, for too thought out, But young people didn't need some of that. What you have to look at the situation and where it's at. And for some of those countries, you just have tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of kids who have nothing to do. And they think just giving them a soccer ball, let them play sports, and it's not even a sport. I mean, they're getting exercise, but you want to engage them into society. So if you got 10 cases, in 2 nights and you got 20 kids on each one, there's 200 cases, 200 youth who got to participate, come to the courthouse, or whether it's going to be in the school. And you got to give them something in their life more, to hopefully, like everybody's life, a lot more adds up to it. And so I think that's important for young people to experience making a difference. And there's really not a lot of opportunities to do that. So that's why the one thing I've liked about these, they've just grown for 25 years. We haven't had to really sell them. So it's just kind of been nice that the public, local people start them. And you see all these young people. I got like 2,000 photos that they've sent me from all over, you get on our website. So it's, I think that's the important part. And there's really not a lot. That's why sometimes you got to make up your own things to do, but, and you can, you can go clean the oceans, the lakes, you can go, big community projects, and we just, more adults, the money needs to be spread around more, the wealthy in the world, the billionaires, there's like 5,000 billionaires now or something like that. All this money could be going to all kinds of things, to even a fraction of it, to be creating so many more opportunities for people. But instead it's hoarded, it's hoarded. You don't have you have some people who aren't a billionaire, like Dolly Parton, because she's been giving away all her life, you have other people who just hoard it, then stop working, where you got like her who just keeps working, almost 80, and she still keeps giving it away, like 1 million to children's diseases the other day. So you have all these different people, but I think that's either got to change, or it's just gonna, especially with the environmental stuff going on with the heat, it's just going to get worse for people, the migration. So yeah, you just gotta try to help people out,
Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. It's been very interesting hearing what you guys do. And I really hope this encourages everyone who's listening to get involved in some way, and hopefully check out y'all's website and try to get involved with you guys.
Yeah, and you're doing your part too. You're getting the word out, what they can do. And this is something where you got over 2,000 young people can do it. They can get them to start it. So thank you too. Yeah, that's how we all kind of do it. And that's why when I got your email and I saw some other things you did, that it's all a piece of the puzzle, So thank you for all you're doing. And as I said, we're glad to have you involved with us in the future. And hi, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.